Hello, Nottingham Forest Focus as Nottingham Forest prepare to kick off their Premier League season on Sunday against Brentford, a team lots of people are predicting might struggle this season, including Greg Mitchell, of course, who for the fourth season in a row has them predicted to be relegated. So is Greg right? Are other people right? Joining us to give us their view is Billy the Bee Grant from the Beesotted podcast. Billy, good to have you with us, mate. How are you today?
How you doing? So, as you probably know, I'm a little bit jet lagged. Last time I came on the show, I sort of explained to you that I was going to be flying off to Brazil. I found out that I had a great grandmother who was Brazilian, which was a little bit of a surprise. So I took the family out to Brazil for nearly 4 weeks. We've been out there, and like I said to you, and my great grandmother, like I said to you, is the Espirito Santo as well. So like I said to you, a bit of a forest link in there. So, and probably the closest forest link I got was actually going to the Amazon rainforest. So it's something I didn't do when England played out there in 2014. I didn't go to the Amazon, but I did this time. Saw tarantulas, like, you know what I'm saying, sort of fished for piranhas, all sorts of stuff, like, you know what I'm saying. So it was completely and utterly removed from any football experience, which is quite nice for me. I think after last season, I like getting away from the football. But I did get to see one football match out there. My friend that I met at the World Cup, he supports Atletico Mineiro. So he took me to go and see a franchise Red Bull. So I actually got into the Brazilian football experience then. And it made me realise as well, because on the other side, I think Danilo was playing for them as well, which is one of your, or no, he was actually playing for, I think, Botafogo or one of the other teams anyway. But I just started to realise, and Forest do have a very strong Brazilian link. You've got quite a few players out from Brazil. And I think being out there now, it's kind of made me look at sort of kind of the links between England and Brazil and the football. But I definitely had a very good time anyway.
Did you meet any relatives out there? Any unknown relatives? You said about the great grandmother. Was there a whole clan of Espirito Santos waiting for you?
Tell you something, there probably were. But if you've ever been to Brazil and you don't know Portuguese, mate, you're in all sorts of trouble. So my Brazilian is really quite bad, and so is the whole family. And even my son, who's 20 years old now, said to me, "Dad, we can't come back out here with at least learning 3 words of Brazilian, because it is, you know, the Google Translate's coming out. So there's no chance of you actually kind of trying to find anything else out there unless you learn a little bit of the local language, or you found a local guide who's very, very good at Brazilian." And in the northeast where I went to, which is like the Bahia area and further up from that, which is like, you know, Salvador, up from Fortaleza, Salvador, and then up to São Luís, which is in the northeast area. They speak even less English than they do, say, in Belo Horizonte or down in Rio. So you really are on your own. So I mean, it's great fun. I love doing that. But no, to answer your question, no. So I'm going to have to go back there again to see if I can discover some Brazilian relatives, or maybe I could talk to your manager. He might be able to help us out.
Possibly so. Right, let's talk West London then, rather than Northeast Brazil. Interesting summer. Thomas Frank has gone. I think he's taken virtually all his coaching staff with him, apart from the guy who's now manager. Mbeumo's gone. Wissa looks like he's gone on strike. I'm not quite sure if I'm accurate on that. And you're going to do some business, bring some players in, by the sound of it, an exciting link with a Rennes striker, Jordan Henderson side, etc., etc. A lot more change than maybe Brentford are used to at the top end of the quality scale and the important people at the club. So how are you feeling in general about what's happened?
I mean, listen, you know, Thomas, I mean, a lot of people sort of say, you know, Thomas Frank's good manager. He's going to go at some stage. He is a very, very good manager. Every time I come on the podcast, I talk about him. Nice bloke, came onto our podcast, go down the pub with him. He's a great man manager, great person, great tactician. I was pretty gutted, to be quite honest. You really left, and I found out I kind of went on strike. Actually, I went on interview strike. You know, all these people calling you up to try and do interviews. I'm like, I'm not going to talk about it. I can't talk about it. So I kind of had to sort of kind of go into my shell for a few days. Then you come out the other end, and then you just realise that, you know, all good things come to an end. We at Brentford, we get very used to our strikers or our good players leaving, because we just get used to that. And Brentford always turn around and say, "Don't worry about it. You know, we'll have somebody else come in, and this could be even better." And they've always delivered on that front. But obviously, managers in general, unless you're, well, there's a few teams out there that sack managers every other week, but in general, managers last a lot longer. You know, so managers are there for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know, Thomas was there for, I think he was there for 7 years. So that's quite a long time. So a long time to sort of kind of get used to somebody, to buy into somebody. And then when they do leave, it becomes quite difficult. But taking a little bit of a setback, I just realised, you know, there's a few things with Thomas. There were, you know, listen, no one's absolutely perfect. And he did learn during his time at Brentford. He used to be slow at making substitutions. He was quite stubborn in kind of what he used to do. And then he sort of kind of changed his way a little bit. But it was said actually towards the back end of last season, but there's almost like you can't say anything bad about Thomas Frank. Like going, his substitutions are a little bit dodgy. At the back end of the season, we were making some really kind of strange moves and strange substitutions. I remember we were sort of kind of playing games and we were like, I think it's like Man United, and we were absolutely in the lead. And then he'd make some substitutions, and all of a sudden, we're like, oh no, we're hanging on by a thread. So we kind of had that going. And also, quite interestingly, we did a podcast once where we just lost again, right? And the thing is that if you know us and Fulham, I mean, you laugh about it. If you hate Fulham, but us and Fulham has gone back to the 80s. It was quite a fearsome rival we had, particularly in the 80s when Fulham was a very working class area. It's actually moved, obviously, to a very much of a posher area, but in the 80s, it was a very, very, very working class area south of the London. And we had quite a fierce rivalry, which has kind of gone on for years and years. And obviously, they went away when they got the Al Fayed money, and they went off and they went into the Premier League, and we swanning around in the third and the fourth divisions, but we used to literally sing about them every week. I'm saying, you talk about Fulham, singing about Fulham every week for about 16 years, which is quite bad, really. But that's what you do when you're in the lower leagues, because you're just watching terrible football. And obviously, we sort of kind of played them back again. When we met them back again, we absolutely hammered them every time we played them. We just hammered them every time, and they just got really fed up, especially as they were a Premier League team and they didn't even know kind of like, who is this Brentford? Why do they hate us so much? So we've pretty much beaten them every time. But in the last 2 seasons, they've beaten us 3 times out of 4. Which hasn't gone down particularly well with a certain section of Brentford fans. And they go, Thomas Frank, he doesn't understand the importance of playing Fulham, and all this kind of stuff. I mean, we try to keep a little bit more level-headed about it, even though it's not great. So this one fan came on the podcast one time, and he was absolutely great. He goes, Thomas Frank has to go. If he can't beat Fulham, he doesn't understand. He has to go. We thought, oh, blimey, mate, this is you're being a little bit kind of extra here. But month later, Thomas Frank was gone. So we kind of blame it on this guy sort of kind of breaking. He's thinking, if I can't beat Fulham and they're not happy with me, I better leave and go to Tottenham. But I think the thing that I'm trying to say here is that we're looking back at Thomas and thinking, listen, he was brilliant for us from taking us from one level to the next level. But now and listen, if he hadn't left, he'd still be there and we'd still be doing stuff with him and his backroom staff and everything like that. Well, it wasn't his backroom staff, it's actually our backroom staff that he needed. But now he's gone. Now he's gone. It gives us an opportunity to change a manager, look at the things that we didn't do right. Because they're a very analytical company. The owner's basically he runs a tech company, so that's all they do. They just analyze all the time and they change. They do things. They're the type of company they put a T-boy in a meeting with a PhD person, and everyone's got a say. And then if the T-boy person comes up with a great idea, they'll implement it. So I think with Brentford, they're like thinking, right, this is the opportunity for us to now implement and change things. We're going to have to change our players. Maybe there's some of the players that we have weren't good enough. So for me, I think it's actually a really exciting moment. And I know the story was we've got the T-boy, we got the free kick coach in as our manager, and it was become a little bit of a laughing stock because of that. But for me, I'm actually quite excited about it because I'm more excited the fact that Brentford have decided to bring somebody that they know and put him into the picture because they know about him and he's safe. I think if you brought in Mourinho or Pep or somebody like that, yeah, everyone thinks great managers, but they might not work for us. So I'm actually quite excited about the new season. So many changes. It's been a bit boring the past couple of seasons in the Premier League, so we need a little bit of excitement, even if it means sort of flirting with relegation.
The only thing, listening to what you're saying there, are you not worried about Andrew's lack of experience? Because Brentford are a club like us, I think. If you have one bad season, it can go really bad for a number of years still. I think we're in that bracket as well. Are you worried that Andrews' lack of experience will all come back and bite you on the backside? Or do you see another kind of succession plan like you had from Smith to Frank?
This is the thing that I'm actually least worried about. I think the thing about football, right, is really a bit old school. So they say things like, "Yeah, you never win with kids." When we got to the Championship, they'll say, Brentford get relegated straight away because their striker they just bought him from Luton, who are in the non-league, Andre Gray, and their manager is we've never heard of him. This guy called Mark Warburton. You know what I'm saying? So, and we were just like, well, we don't operate like that. We just basically find the best people that we think and just make them good. And that's always the way that we've been. Thomas Frank, he had he had some experience in Denmark, but he had no experience in the UK managing. So, like I said to you, for me, I don't think it's really an issue at all. I think the fact that Keith Andrew, and the thing is that when Brentford employed him, he was coaching elsewhere, and they said they've been watching him for quite a while. And it's almost like what Brentford did. They said, right, let's bring him in, but what can we get him to do? They said to him, hello, mate, how about trying this one? How about free kick coach, or or set piece coach? We want you to be, and they taught him to be a set piece coach. But when he was doing that, he was also interacting, and they saw how his interaction was with the players, with the manager, with the team, and everything like that. And I think they turned around and made a decision, said, look, we think he's actually the perfect person to be a manager. He's got the right qualities. He's a real people person. I used to do a lot of stuff on Sky. I mean, that's how I met Greg and Mr. Dorr. When I used to basically produce all the fan videos and get them on the, you remember on the shows on Channel 5 and Sky when all the fans used to speak. So I used to sort of coordinate that all through the leagues. And I remember Keith Andrews was on Sky at the time. And I remember at the time, I was thinking, he's actually talking quite sense. He's actually quite a good talker. I'm quite listening to it say, whereas other pundits on there, you sort of think, oh God, he's on there again. So I sort of had a lot of respect for him beforehand. I mean, obviously, I'd never have known that he's going to become Brentford sort of head coach or down the line. But for me, honestly, I've got no worries about his lack of experience. I think that's less of an issue. I think, if anything, my probably fear is that Thomas Frank nicked all our kind of decent backroom staff that Brentford had built up. He actually brought in this guy called Klaus Norgaard, right, from Denmark. So he brings in Klaus Norgaard. We bring in all these other people from everywhere, including Justin, who's on the bench for England. He's actually working with Tuchel at the moment now. So we've got all these people, nice backroom staff, brilliant analysts. Thomas goes and leaves, takes our backroom staff with him, and he leaves Klaus, who we brought over from Norway, with us. We're like, cheers, Thomas. So in the end, Brentford had to get rid of Klaus because they're like, well, we didn't want Klaus in the first place, but Thomas brought him over, and then he's not even taking him with him. So that's got a little bit of a gripe with Brentford fans. But that's probably a little bit more of a fear as we've got a new backroom staff to see how they will do. And obviously, and you'll come on to this in a bit, losing Mbeumo, he scored 20 goals this season. He's brilliant, you know what I'm saying? So whoever you're going to bring in, there's always going to be an issue because he's taken 7 years to get to that stage as well. And obviously Wissa going on strike as well. He's going to go. I'm sure he's going to, he might not go actually, because Brentford have been quite firm about it. And if we don't get the money that we want, then he's going to actually stay. But just losing them two, there's 40 goals between those two. It's going to be an issue because of course we'll have money and bring people in. But as you know, with players, it takes time for them to bed in, to understand the systems, all that kind of stuff. And if you have a bit of a rocky start to the season, then things may, then it's a bit squeaky bum time. So those are the issues that are probably sort of worrying me slightly more than Keith Andrew, who I think is going to be a great manager.
Yeah, Seb Hutchinson was on the other day, and he said he commentated on games with Andrews and said he thought at the time he was switched on and smart and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I can see that what you're saying certainly. What's your view on Wissa going on strike? We had it with Morgan and he didn't. So are you pretty narked at him or not?
Yeah, fans, you're dead to me. Wissa is the scenario. So basically, fans want him gone. They don't want him back in the side. Obviously, Brentford have to be a lot more practical about it. We were talking about it again on our podcast. As you check it, prideofwest.london, we're recording later on. But we were talking about going back to other players who have gone on strike. And we started to sort of kind of think, when did this first start? When did players decide that they're going to go on strike? I mean, I think for Brentford, it first happened, I think when we were in the Championship and we had Adam Forshaw, who was a great player for us. And then Wigan, actually, and we found this out, our story through Beesotted, because again, being a smaller club, you do find out information and very, very on-point information, because obviously you've got a lot more contacts within the club that you can find that stuff. And Wigan actually told Forshaw to go on strike. He goes, it's only Brentford. If you go on strike, they're going to have to sell you. And it caused a massive issue. And that's the first time that we've really had that scenario when a player goes on strike for us. And then after that, we had it the same thing with James Tarkowski when we were in the Championship. And he wanted to move to Burnley. Burnley were at the top of the Championship at the time, looking like they were going to go Premier League. And they came in for Tarkowski. He went on strike, and that caused massive issues. And then, so we still berate Tarkowski every time he plays us. We call him the Jughead Judas, actually, at Brentford. So yeah, he hasn't gone down particularly well. So Wissa is seen in that sort of kind of same vein. And even though, like, you used to sing all the Wissa and Fire song and everything like that, that is literally gone. And it's going to be quite weird because, again, having a little sniff around, Brentford are absolutely holding firm with Wissa. This is like, these are the rules. This is the contract. Okay, if you want to go, that's fine. But this is our asking figure. the asking figure may be higher than what it should be, only because the value to Brentford at the moment is quite high for him, because we had two players who did very well last season, and we don't particularly want to sell both of them because we've just realised in the past that's not the thing to do. So with Wissa, maybe we may have sold him 6 months later or a year later. And with most of the players, they understand that and they do the manners. So we knew that Mbeumo was going to go all the time, so he's gone. And then we were going to keep Wissa, and then he's going to hold the fort. We probably paid him more money and so on and so forth. But he's now turned around and goes, I want my move. And Brentford are like, okay, well, that wasn't really part of the plan. And he's like, well, I'm going to go. And they're like, well, you're under contract for another couple of years. He goes, well, I'm going to go. I'm going to go on strike. So Brentford are holding on tight, and they want their figure, and they're also going to need to bring in a new player. So there is a chance that on the 1st of September, Wissa is going to have to put his tail between his legs and come back and start playing for Brentford again, because obviously he has to play for Brentford if he wants to get a move, and he's got to be decent. So it's a bit of a bit of an embarrassing situation for him. And as Brentford are saying, they're holding all the cards in the scenario at the moment now. But as far as the fans are concerned, we just want him gone. We just think it leaves a bad smell around the dressing room, around the stadium. We just need him to go.
I'll ask Billy a bit more about a couple of other areas of the team shortly, but just before that, a word for the Trent navigation. First 3 games are on Sky, so you can watch them all at the Nav. Get your breakfast there, get your dinner there, make a day of it. If you don't have a ticket, if you're unlucky to have missed out, then spend the day at the Nav, and Fothers will have his pre-match build-up as normal and all that. Also, a few gigs coming up as well. It's for you to get tickets from fatsoma.com. Sanctum Sanctorium, I don't know if that's your thing, but the Dark Side of the 90s, apparently. The Cure Heads and Legends of Manchester on October the 11th. So tickets from fatsoma.com as mentioned. Looking at the players coming in, I'll ask you about the keeper in a second, because he was one we would keen to sign a few years ago on our podcast. But just before that, we have Norgaard feels like one that's sort of gone under the radar as a massive miss for me. And then you've got Henderson in. Does Henderson fit the way you play? Because you're quite a high energy, all action kind of team. Is Henderson a good signing, or are you worried about how he might fit into the system?
I think you're talking about Norgaard. Norgaard, brilliant player. My daughter's favourite player. I mean, she plays football. She's number 6, and she was gutted when she found out that he left. The reality with Norgaard, and he's the type of player. And I mentioned this before. If he has a good game, we have a good game. He kind of, holds the midfield. He kind of plays the ball out. He started off as an attacking midfielder, then he became a CDM. So he's got this really attacking mentality. As you see, he kind of slips into the box and he scores goals. Scored a couple of goals for Arsenal actually in his first couple of friendlies with them. He's going to be a massive miss. But the thing is, because he was so important to us, we play him as much as we could do, and he couldn't play more than 2 games a week, or sometimes he'd play a few games and he'd be out for a few weeks because of his injuries. And he'd be one of the players where I think he used to spend about an hour or an hour and a half in rehab after every single match. So we knew this is a scenario. So we'd already had a succession plan in place for Norgaard, and maybe that plan was going to be we'll get somebody else in, and maybe Norgaard plays 1 game out of 3 or 1 game out of 4. I don't know what it was, but that was meant to be the plan. Obviously, Arsenal came in, offered us £10 million before, okay, and he wanted to go. So we, did the manners thing. We let him go. We took the money, and we just thought, okay, we'll have to be 6 months or a year earlier in our succession plan for Norgaard. So it was for the fans, they're all really gutted and they're all worried. Then Henderson came in, and there's a bit of confusion because everyone's like, Henderson. Oh, okay, England, Liverpool captain. This is good, or is it good? I'm not quite sure. And I think part of the problem was that he obviously went over to Qatar, which didn't work out particularly well. I mean, he went out there and didn't particularly like it, to be quite honest with you. The footballing or the professionalism wasn't what he expected it to be out there, and the level of football wasn't what he expected it to be. Then he came back and he went to Ajax. First season was a little bit iffy, but I think he came back there in the January. But then the following season, apparently he was very good. And he led them to almost winning the title until they fluffed it in the last 3 or 4 games. But all the Ajax fans I spoke to say that he's very good. Now, it's one of those ones where you think, is this a good move or is it not a good move? The thing about Henderson is that Henderson isn't meant to be, because everyone's going, oh, you signed Henderson, you're going to go down. He isn't like one of the players we're thinking, oh my God, he's going to lead us forevermore. It's almost like for Brentford, they've got a stopgap. And it's been a perfect stopgap for us, because to try and find a player playing in that position who is a brilliant player, you're going to have for 3, 4, 5 years, you're going to have to spend 30, 40, 50, 60 million pounds. But we're not in the position to do that because we've already earmarked one or two of our younger players who we believe is going to evolve into that position in a couple of years' time. But they're not ready yet. So the fact is that they don't want to stop the pathway of those players because, again, Brentford do quite a lot of like 3, 4, 5 year planning. So, I mean, this player he's going to be a little genius, but still 2 years away. So they're thinking, how can we bring somebody in who's good enough to do the job, doesn't want, it doesn't want to sort of kind of like, isn't going to cost us an absolute fortune and, doesn't want a sort of 6-year contract and everything like that. So I think when Henderson came in, I thought, bloody hell, you've actually done quite well, Brentford, because he's a decent player. He's a real, he's a really good, from what I've gathered, speaking to all my contacts around there as well, a really good person to have around the young people. If you're looking at developing people, he's a real professional, apparently. So he wants things only done the right way and people done the right way, training, warms down, all this kind of stuff. So I actually think that he's going to be a really good person to have in the squad. I don't know if he's going to play every single game. I probably think that he's not going to play every single game, and that's probably the reason why he wasn't given the captaincy. But what I think that he will bring, because we played a game against Borussia Mönchengladbach in a friendly last week, and I watched that when I was over in Rio on the beach, as you do. I was watching that game, and it was quite frustrating because in the first half we were thinking, we're missing that central defensive person, somebody to hold it together. And Henderson wasn't on. He came on in 70 minutes. Thought, we're going to give you 20 minutes. And when he came on, he just basically started running that midfield. He got the ball, he put the ball down, started playing some great passes. And I think that with Brentford, they're clever enough. What they'll do is that they'll change the play around the player. So they know that Henderson ain't going to be running around and doing all this kind of stuff. But what he will be doing is he'll be playing a particular style. So they'll put players behind him to make sure that we can play the way that Henderson does. So I've got no worries about him. And I was actually quite impressed when I saw him, but also hearing his history and his professionalism, I think this is actually going to be really good for us because we need a player like that. We've missed players like that since Pontus Jansson, who was a great captain for us as well. And he was like a big captain for us. Henderson isn't the captain, but he's almost like he will be a captain with his presence on the pitch.
Do you feel, last one on the players, you feel like you've upgraded the keeper then? Kelleher for Flecken, is that feels like a good move?
Yeah, and it's funny. I mean, I think when I came on here before, and you said to me, "Oh, I'm not sure about Flecken."
I must admit, I've always not been quite sure. I think it looks like a keeper who's really good with his feet, and he saved loads of shots. Like the shot volume Brentford concedes has always been high, but I'm just a big fan of Kelleher, so I feel like you have. Maybe you can tell me you haven't.
Yeah, well, Flecken's first season was terrible. He was terrible, and literally everyone wanted. Well, again, most people wanted him rid because they thought this keeper is absolutely awful, and he's got mistakes in him all over the place, and he had loads and loads of mistakes in him. And even he kind of went, and I think on the official club channel, he said, "Look, I'm just, I haven't had my best season. You haven't seen me at my best, and I'm going to put my hand up." Basically, said I've been quite rubbish, but he goes, "Just bear with me because I'm better than this," in effect. And then the following season, he actually started to be really good, and he started to pull off some really great saves with his feet. He was great. His distribution was great. Still had a few mistakes in him every now and again, but the mistakes were less than they were the previous season. So fans got away with him. And also, like I said to you, I think he had the highest, say, shot density. I think the highest shots against him or the highest saves or something like that. So, which, in a way you sort of think, well, that's not a great thing because it means that your defence isn't actually doing a very good job. But yeah, he was good for us. But it's one of those ones where when they said he's going to leave, fans didn't go, "Oh no, he's leaving. You've got to keep him." They were like, "Okay, right." And Kelleher has been a good keeper. He's played in a Liverpool team. He's got good pedigree behind him. He's got good training behind him. And I think we've been trying to get him for a while beforehand as well. And I think that actually it is a good upgrade for us to get in a keeper who is younger, which means that you can, again, you can go through the years with him. Whereas I think Flecken was probably 30 or 31. So he's a lot older keeper. And again, with Brentford, we don't in general stop players. So if somebody gets an opportunity, so with Flecken, he had the opportunity to play Champions League, and we said, it's fair enough. Okay, we'll take the money for you and you'll go. And it's the same thing with Norgaard. He had the opportunity to play Champions League as well. So we'll say, we'll take the opportunity and go. Very different for Wissa, what I'm saying, because I've got the opportunity just to make some more money. We're just like, we'll stay with us for another year, but it's a different scenario. But yeah, with like I said to you, with Kelleher, I think we've got a bit of an upgrade, but it'll be good to see him play because I think he got injured. Every time we sign players, they just get injured straight away. So Kelleher didn't play against Borussia Mönchengladbach because he was injured. So I've got no idea if he's going to play against Forest. which is probably quite a good thing for you because that means we'll have to play one of our sub-keepers against you. And Valdemarson, I think it is, and he's all right, but let's just see how it goes.
Last question. I got an email saying, ask Billy about long throws. Someone had been watching your friendlies and said, Brentford long throws are really dangerous. So I suppose I'll ask you about long throws, but also where the goals are coming from. You got Thiago, who missed all of last season, I think, and you might be signing this striker from Rennes. So are you confident that by hook or by crook, you're going to get the goals that you need to finish well clear of relegation then?
Okay, so big discussion on the Beesotted Pride of West London podcast. You can catch it on prideofwest.london, and I know you're going to be on it as well, Matt, which is all good. And we discuss these things. And last season, before the season, we were saying as fans, we're going, tell you what, we got goals in us. We're going to score loads of goals, but we're really nervous about our defence because it's a bit rubbish, isn't it? And it's true in the end. First half of the season in particular, we scored about 7,422 goals and we let in about 7,421 or something like that. It was just mad games, 4-3s, 5-2. I don't know what was going on. So it kind of proved to be right where we were very, very potent up front, but very, very rubbish at the back last season. This time, we're actually looking at the side. We're thinking, actually, we were much better in defence. Rico Henry is back after 2 years out. Aaron Hickey is back after nearly 2 years out as well. So we've kind of tightened up the defence. If Jordan Henderson plays, he'll be sitting in front of the defence as well. We've got Van der Berg from Liverpool and Collins, who's become brilliant. He's the new captain. So the defence is really, really tight. But up front, we're like, oh no, what's going on here? It's just not very good, is it? So Thiago, yes, he's a year injury. And at the moment now, we're not quite sure. We're not quite sure about Thiago. We really like him as a person, but he's still trying to find his feet. We're knocking balls very long to him at the moment now, and he's not quite delivering. Obviously, Mbeumo was on the right, and then we had Wissa as well. And Mbeumo's not there anymore. We try and Cavallo, who was the guy that we signed from Liverpool, used to be at Fulham. He isn't pulling up trees at the moment now, it has to say, on the right-hand side. And then Sharda, unfortunately, is injured at the moment now. So we got Keane Lewis-Potter, who's been playing the last couple of years fullback because we transformed him from a winger when he came to us to a fullback because we had no fullbacks as left back. And he's been brilliant as a fullback. But then we've thought, okay, we've got a fullback now. We're going to put you back into the wing. And he's gone onto the wing. We're like, oh, no. The Keane Lewis-Potters, he needs to do a few more sort of bit of wing school. You know what I'm saying? So at the moment now, it's up front. I'm putting my hand up and saying it's not looking particularly great for us. So we're thinking if we can keep it tight and nick a goal here or there, it might be quite good for us. But then you don't know what Brentford have kind of lined up. We've got this new kid that we bought, Milambo, who came on as sub a couple of times in the friendlies, and he looks brilliant. He's like one of those people that literally is just going to tear defences to pieces. But I think they're thinking at the moment now, it's probably too early to throw you into the deep end, but I know that he's definitely going to be a starter and feature us a little bit down the line. So I think for this Forest game, I'll be very surprised, but maybe he might do. He's not going to be one that's going to be starting, but he's a very, very dangerous player. Also, coming back to the set pieces, obviously our manager, Keith Andrews, is the set piece coach. They taught it to be set piece coach. So that's going to be a very important part of our game. And that's the one thing I noticed when we played Borussia Mönchengladbach. And it's almost like I was slightly disappointed because we were relying very much on all our set pieces, which is corners, free kicks, and what the goalkeeper is doing, and also throw-ins. Now the throw-ins, we've always used throw-ins as part of our kind of set piece kind of armory. I don't know if you remember when we played our very first game in the Premier League, and we played Arsenal, and Mads, we had loads of Mads, but one of the Madses came on anyway. Not Mads Roslev, the other one, the other Mads guy, and he came on as a substitute in the 84th minute. He literally got the ball, launched the ball into the area, and then I think it was Norgaard that came and nicked it on and scored a goal. It was Norgaard or Canos, I can't remember. I think it was Norgaard anyway. He scored the goal that put us 2-0 up against them. And at that time, I remember Robbie from Arsenal Fan TV, I was on a show with him the following day, and he's like, Brentford, they're like Stoke City, with their set pieces and their long throws, blah, 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 this, that, the other. So 4 years later, I'm now reminding Robbie from Arsenal Fan TV with Arsenal with their long throws and their set pieces, and they're stealing their set piece coach from Brentford. Hold on a second, mate. It seems that you're kind of like following on from that, and it's not really, I don't think it's really an issue. I think it's a case that you've got to adapt your game to whatever. So Brentford will use our set pieces and will use that as an advantage at times. And against teams, let's say, for example, against Man United or Man City at the time, maybe against Arsenal, you might find yourselves being more powerful in certain areas and you can use that against them. But there's other teams that we couldn't do. There'll be other teams who will have big centre backs, really strong players that you can't do that as well. So I think it depends on the game. We've got this kid that we bought I think he came last January in the window. His name's Michael Coyote. He came from, I think it was from Fiorentina. And he's one of the players. I mean, Norgaard was with us for what 6 or 7 years. He never got a song. Michael Coyote got a song within about 2 weeks. You know, he drinks he drinks Moretti, he eats spaghetti, he hates Queen's Park Rangers, but he's become a massive cult hero, and he has got this ginormous throw. Like, you know what I'm saying, he could take it from the byline and he literally throw it to the far post. So as well, so we're using that as one of our, you know, a bit of artillery against the opposition. But like I said to you, I'm a little bit nervous about the fact that this becomes the be all and the end all for us. And I don't think it's going to become the be all and the end all. I think that at the moment now, players are coming in and finding their feet and trying to kind of work, you know, trying to still work out positions. So I think that kind of attacking style of Brentford that you saw with the counter attacks and everything like that last season, we haven't got that as yet because players are still trying to develop that. But what we've got other parts of our game, which hopefully you will see on Saturday, and hopefully we'll be able to deliver.
That Coyote does look decent, to be fair. I remember seeing him last season. Not just the long throws, but, you know, good defender and good energy. So, yeah, interesting player. Right, I've got one final question for Billy that I've asked all our opposition fans this summer as we've spoken to them as we go along. Just for that, a word for our second sponsors and new sponsors. James Bogue, who's a big Forest fan, he sent me some blurb, which I'll read out, then I'll say some authentic words. Business owners, remember those nerve-running days when Forest clung onto a 1-0 lead? Running a business can feel the same, tense, messy and exhausting, except there's no final whistle when you're playing 24/7. If you'd like things to feel calmer, more profitable and a whole lot stressful, register for some weekly practical valuable grown-up tips that are proven to work. Click the link in the comments to get started and we'll send you the 7 secrets to growing your business. There's a QR code on the screen as well, so if you scan that, then that's for you. Right, anyway, James is a lovely guy. He's he's on the board of the Forest Supporters Association, and he sent me a lovely bottle of wine for my birthday, and he's a nice bloke, and if you're looking to grow your business, then I'm sure he'll give you some good tips, won't rip you off, and he's a good person to deal with. Right, Billy, I've spoken to every opposition fan before you. I left you till last. Obviously, we're playing you. I asked the same final question. Where will your team finish in the Premier League? So where will Brentford finish in the Premier League?
Okay, so I did a little article for The Guardian, as you do the pre-seasons or kind of prediction stuff, and I put us down as 14th. I know a lot of clubs and a lot of pundits are putting us down for relegation, which is cool because we're kind of used to that kind of thing. But I put us down for 14th, and I said that if we finish 14th or above, I think, you know, considering the tumultuous pre-season that we've had, I think it'll actually be a bit of a result. I just, you know, I don't want to do the kind of everyone looks at the 3 relegated teams because, oh, those 3 relegated teams are going to go straight back down, because I don't think that's necessarily always the case, because I think that if not relegated, sorry, promoted teams that come up, because I think that if the promoted team does something quite clever and quite special, I think that they can actually kind of negotiate. I think when they kind of make the same silly mistakes, which is, and I think some of them, they'll just go out and just buy a whole load of players and just expect things to happen. I think that it kind of won't work with that. But I think that, you know, people, you know, are saying that Leeds United will go down back again. The fact is, I just look, the fact that they've got this money from, you know, these Americans, it just kind of always makes you think, is that ever going to click in at some stage? And also, you know, they've got their recruitment wrong a lot of the time, but, you know, have they got a little bit wiser to that? And if they do, will it be enough to sort of kind of keep them up? So I'm sort of saying, I'm not necessarily saying the top 3, the 3 that come up are going to go down. So that puts us obviously in danger, because it means that, you know, we're not guaranteed to stay up. But I just think that we'll have enough in our can defensively to try and keep it tight. And also, I think by the time our players get up to speed, which I think probably won't be till about November, until they actually get up to speed, I think that we'll have some goals in us as well. So I think 14th will be my figure. He says, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Well, apart from Greg, who's really hoping you get relegated, but you know that.
Of course,
you know
of course. But listen. Greg came to me with the England game, and he loves having us up there. And he knows if we get relegated, then he's just not going to have fun together. Like, you know what I'm saying? So Greg keeps on moaning about. I know he wants Thomas Frank. He's put Thomas Frank down as being the first manager to be sacked as well. So even though Thomas has left Brentford, he's like still got this anti-Brentford thing going on. But listen. Sorry, Greg, but you know we're going to be here we're like a cat, mate. You know, every time we open the door, we're going to still be there in your face. You know what I'm saying? So listen, we're enjoying ourselves. We're having a laugh. We don't take ourselves too seriously. I'll be honest with you. If we got relegated, I wouldn't care too much because I do enjoy the Championship, and there'll be a bit of a laugh down there anyway, and there'll be a bit of change as well. So listen, and that's I think part of the thing with us is like we're not kind of nervously sort of saying we got to stay up and we'll be crying if we go down. We're just enjoying our time here. So yeah, I just love football. I love. Go to football matches, go to fans. I love going to places. I love going to Forest. I'm looking forward to going to see Dave down at the the navigation as well. I was there in the summer for the England game. Actually, I've got about number 4th in the quiz. They do that quiz where they put it on the screen.
Father's quiz, yeah.
I've got 4th in the quiz. I was really happy with that. Like you say, so we might come to the down to the navigation after the game. I'm not sure we can get there before the game because there's a rail replacement service. So it's taken us forever to get up from London, you know, so we're getting on the first train, but we're not going to get there till about midday-ish. So we might actually head straight to a couple of the pubs that the Brentford are drinking in. But we'll come in afterwards and pop in for a Swifty after the game down to the navigation, have a drink with Greg and all the other and Dave and all the other characters down there. If you're in there as well, I'll buy you a drink as well, Matt.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah, I'm going to the game. My in-laws are over, and I don't know when it's so not socially when it's acceptable to disappear and how long to disappear for. But yeah, I'm going to try to definitely. I'm definitely at the match. I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, right. We shall leave it there. Thanks to Billy. We'll catch up with him later in the season and wish him and Brentford luck apart from for this game. If you've enjoyed this, do us a favour, hit like, hit subscribe, do consider membership or Patreon. You get early access to all the interviews that we do like this, or a lovely 5-star review on Apple or Spotify would be lovely. And we shall be back tomorrow with a post-match show, a couple of hours after the game. I say a bit later than also I'm going, but do join us for that. And then a full kind of breakdown and analysis on Monday when we're back into the full swing of things, apart from the transfer window, which I hate and can't wait for it to end. But there's still a couple of weeks left. So, yeah, thanks, Billy. Thanks, everyone. And we shall see you soon.